Welcome to A Matter of Pact, a Minions Warmachine Hordes podcast, celebrating strength through diversity. This is Gaston.
And this is Rickard, and we are your hosts for this podcast.
Thanks for joining us. How have you been, good sir?
I've been pretty good. I've been having vacation, which is always nice, and getting some games in. How have you been?
I've been jealous of you, because I feel like every time I talk to you, you're on vacation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Swedish, so that's the thing we do.
Like, how much vacation do you get a year?
I have 30 days.
Oh, okay, so that doesn't count weekends.
No. So basically, I mean, 30 vacation days would be the equivalent of 1.5 months, like six weeks. Yep.
You have been on a journey, though, now that you're impersonating the Wanderer from Grimkin?
Pretty much, I guess, except for the crossroad tokens, whatever they're called.
As long as you didn't go to France, I think you'll be okay.
I did go to France. So me and my team that will go to WC went to France for the team tournament for the 4th year in a row. And
now you have won this 3 years in a row, right?
Yes. Spoiler alert: we did not win this time. We actually, I mean, we made the cut because it's not like a full-blown team tournament. We had, I think, 15 teams probably. So we didn't want to do like a straight Swiss. So we did like a group stage, and then all the group leaders got fed into like a semifinals and then a finals. And we made
interesting.
I mean, I think it's a pretty fun format, because then if you have 4 groups of 4 in the first day, like all the groups play all the teams in their own group, so that's 3 games, and then you get 2 more games on the next day, which I think is pretty fine, because it's good to get in more games, even though a straight Swiss would have it done by 4 rounds.
Because it's funny with the US is just, single elimination up the ladder.
Yeah.
And you all structure things so differently over there.
I mean, this is not the way you usually do it. Like usually we do the American way and just do like the straight Swiss.
Is the American way actually called the straight Swiss?
Yeah, like that's like the usual Swiss system.
Okay.
But anyway, we went there, we made the semifinals, and then we lost the semifinals. And it was pretty obvious that we were like not really up to the meta. We hadn't been playing enough, and we're like, basically just rusty all over. After France, I realized that like I'm not mad about Maelok, like the way he plays. Of course, it's a strong list. We talked about it in the cast. It's been doing very well in tournaments all over the world, but I just feel that when the feed is over, if you haven't like gotten like a good snowball effect going, like a good player is just gonna outplay you, wipe one flank, and contest you soon and start scoring, and it's pretty hard to actually do like anything creative to get back from that situation.
And I think one of the interesting things about that particular list as compared to things like Primal Terrors is everyone complained about the durability of the posse.
Yeah.
But then you have all these other lists that get the durability of the posse and they hit way harder.
Yeah, and it's like if you don't manage to take out like a Spell Immune Jack, for example, or like dent it hard enough, it's just gonna start slaying posse, and then you have to like, okay, do I actually try to cripple it somehow, and then like and just risk feeding posse into it, or do I try to evade it and then it can just roam freely? And yeah, I mean it's still good. Maybe it's just like an issue with Protectorate for him, but I don't know. I'm going to try some new stuff and see how I like it better. I mean, it's still not like a super complicated list, so it's easy to pick up again if I don't find anything.
Now, you feel like you're running out of time to prep for WTC with trying all new lists?
Yes, for sure. I still feel pretty rusty, and I need more reps overall. But I'm gonna do my best and see what happens. I can mention I personally went 2-3 during the tournament. I played BLoB Maelok, the BLoB with the Bone Swarms I talked about last time, I think. And my wins were against Trolls, one against Maelok 2 on time, one into Maelok 1 on Assassination. The guy didn't really know what my stuff did, so he left Maelok 1 on 1 camp on feet turn within 8 inches of the snake and 7 inches of blob. So, yeah.
Surprising.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it afterwards, and like, is it really that guaranteed? It's like, yes, because the snake has just straight up paralysis on 4 dice. And if the snake paralyzes Madrak, it doesn't matter how many camp he has, because
Yeah, pretty much.
the Blob is gonna come in with like 15 attacks. Even though he can't charge, he's gonna be just walk up 7 inches and be like, hello.
How amazing would it be if he had tough, no knockdown, all of those?
I might have tilted a bit on that. But
Because Blob only ignores tough on his bite, right? Not on the spear.
I mean, he has grievous on the bite, so I mean, you would have to connect one bite. But I mean, I couldn't reach it with that. So, but I mean, okay, that dice happens. That's fine. If it happens for 415, it's gonna be okay. It was not meant to be. Then I lost with Maelok into Vindictus. Just like I had pretty good pressure early game. Matt Flowering 6 spoiled like scenario game for me because I was unable to hit even with rerolls like a guy on def 13. And the champion of the Order of the Walls that were contesting the Sign Zones were like a mess to handle.
Aren't they?
Yeah, suited to
They
perfection.
are like my nemesis. Well, they were my nemesis until I swapped into playing the Horrors.
Yeah, Hordes I can maybe see. I mean, I basically had to send a wrestler after one. I got 3 gators into him. They all missed his attack because they had to charge further through terrain. Then they all, of course, did nothing, and the champion didn't do anything. So I started to like, okay, I need to clear this zone. I need to put a wrestler over there. The wrestler barely did it. I had to take 3 strikes just to get the gators out of the way, so I could actually mortality the champion because it's of course defense 13 base. So, yep, I'm salty about the champions.
Well, then they get the retaliatory strike off of Vilmon, I believe.
Yeah, it's a bundle of joy.
So I'm not helping, am I?
No, but I mean I'm mostly over it, mostly. And then I lost like a pretty close game into Magnus Toe, which was mostly because I mispositioned. I lost the snake early, but it went to round 7, but I got a little bit behind on scenario while winning attrition. But I mean that's
so it's interesting because I had said that about Blob like all the way back in February, and I had been adjusting for it by putting gremlin swarms in my army because it always felt like I'd be losing scenario. I'd reach an inflection point in the game and turn it around because of attrition.
Yeah.
And I would win if I got that quickly, and I would lose if I got that slowly.
Yeah. So I mean it was also like a really good scenario for Magnus, the wrestling belt scenario.
And that's Magnus 2, not Magnus 1.
Yeah, Magnus 2.
Is that the one with the control feat?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just getting them confused.
I did get like a decent foothold into the zone, but I mean I was still unable to properly contest the 2 rectangle zones, and then it sort of like snowballed away.
Yeah, interestingly, Magnus 2 is incredibly popular in my area.
Yeah, I mean
he's
he's
a
a thing
popular.
globally.
Okay. And at least the last few times I've been playing Jaga, so I always had ambushing in the list, and that helped significantly.
Yeah, I mean
ambushing and shooting.
just contesting is fine for Blob because he can do the little skeleton spirally thing from his little bone shaker. So even if you don't have like anything really close to the zones, those little guys can contest, just spot contest really far out, because the last one is going to be placed like within 10 of him, and just that's going to cover a lot of ground. But they're not going to hold the scenario. They're just going to be there to contest so he doesn't score at the end of your turn if he goes first.
Right. And did you opt to go second in that one?
I did actually, because he didn't want to sit in the sun because it was super warm. So I actually picked the side in the shade.
That is the best strategic decision right there.
I'm not gonna die from a heat stroke. This is.
I feel like you've like really checked a lot of stereotypes right there about cold in the northern countries, and you just couldn't handle the sunlight.
I mean, we've had a heat wave. It's been warm since June, and I don't usually complain about the heat because summer is rare in Sweden. But now I kind of want it to be autumn. It's
like
this is too much.
What is this warm? Is it like 10 degrees?
No, it's actually like 30 centigrade.
You can hear me converting that to something I understand. Oh, what? Oh, whatever. I just realized what temperature that is. Whatever.
Man,
Get out of here.
We're not built for this. It's bad.
No,
it's bad for me.
This. See, we are cracking like 38 here pretty easily.
That's your problem, man. I mean, you have air conditioning, right?
Damn right we do.
Yeah, I don't. because
bring on the global warming.
Because we don't really need it usually, but now we do.
Okay, back to the matter of hand. I do appreciate the cultural education.
Yeah.
On how you guys don't appreciate 86 degrees.
And I mean we don't even like 30 degrees, which is way lower.
30 degrees is 86 degrees.
Yeah, I know.
I had to get the calculator.
So anyway, more games. Like after France, we did some WTC boot camps. I just came to the realization that like the BLoB list isn't. It needs to be played too perfectly, I think, to actually be enjoyable right now in a competitive environment. It's probably just a me thing. I need more reps, but it always feels like you're on the back foot on scenario, and that's not a fun feeling in the scenario package. So I'm gonna either try to do.
Have you practiced with the 2 new scenarios?
A little bit, yeah.
Are they feel even worse for him than?
I think the flag circle scenario is probably pretty good for him.
Okay.
Because I mean he can always contest the other zone. He super loves to like have his own zone to clear. So I mean he can focus on one zone and just clear it, score on flags and contest flags. I think he should do that pretty well. I don't know which is the other new scenario. It's like, is it just Recon? The new Recon? Is that the only one?
I think it's called Recon 2.
Yeah, this is like the same thing, but they moved the flag to the corners instead of the like middle of the rectangle zones, which is also I think more fine for him because he wants to be clumped up. But anyway, like the way I feel about BLoB is that, at least the way I play him, is that he's like too constricted by the Starcross bubble usually. Like you really want to play around that, that makes positioning and activation order like super clunky. So I guess I want to try him with something more like basic, like in Blindwater, just have like some beasts and dudes, and get some chambers in there, use them for like a more greedy feat than I usually do now. And there's still some cool stuff you can do even with Croak Raiders if you want more scenario presence from the start, because even though you don't want to give Dark Shroud on something you're shooting fire at, you can actually shoot fire at something and then move in with the skeleton. He has to proc Dark Shroud on the oil fire roll in the maintenance phase instead. And it also works with sprays, stuff you can just snake the little skeletons out, spray stuff with Dahlia or Quack, whatever.
That's some pretty nasty stuff there.
Yeah, I mean you also have PS15 Posse, which is decent. Still Mat 6 problems, but well, we'll see.
No, they get rerolls, dude. It's fine.
Yeah, it's yeah, in theory, yeah, maybe.
Just like Primal Terrors with their Mat 11.
Okay, that hurt. So going forward, I am going to try some totally new list pairing, which will be Jaga, mostly geared to going into Crix, and then go back to good old Rask Super Friends.
I just say Jaga. Told you so.
Yeah, you were right all along, Gaston. I should have listened to you from the start.
You see, I'm like the turtle from Kung Fu Panda. I sound crazy, but I'm like smart. So Jaga. I'm really curious about how it played into DI, because every time I show up to do that, my Crix opponent dodges me.
Okay,
it hurts.
Interesting. So as I said, the Jaga list, which is geared mostly into Crix, like in a team tournament format, is like a very skewy gunline. It's Jaga, it's 3 speeders, a Sector Vault, 2 max Croak Raiders with Void Leeches, minimum unit of ambushers plus voiders for defeat, double miss speaker, and a free soul slave, and the miss speakers are of course also free. So I guess the most controversial decision in that list is no Wrestler, but I think it's better to do like one thing more like skewy and just go for like shooting, and then instead of having like a dead Wrestler that sort of waits, if something comes forward, then we can start doing punchy things with the spitters. And I've tried it into stuff it really shouldn't go into, which is more armor than it should need to handle, and it's been going pretty fine, like because of all the continuous effects that surpasses stuff like Carapace, feats and stuff. Corrosion ignores armor, can sandpaper down some stuff. Because you're doing a lot of boosted damage under science importance, it does add up. You spike a whole lot. And
it does, and I don't disagree with you at all about that. But every time I leave the Wrestler at home, something happens and it's just awful.
Yeah, and I mean, so the big argument against going into Crux without Wrestler is of course Dark Industries, which is the Carapace theme. Then you're looking at Armor 21 Slayers and like an Armor 23 Deathjack against shooting, and the numbers become sort of iffy. But I did think about it, and it was like, okay, but if I use the feat to bomb the Slayers, it should be pretty good. Anyway, like, so if I'm sacrificing Bogtrog Ambushers, you're getting boosted power 14s with science importance into armor 17, and that can like easily take out a big chunk of Jack. And then you also have like, if you don't focus on firing on them too much, because the Croc's gonna be power 11 against armor 21. If you just focus on getting like oil plus fire and then hoping that the fire doesn't go out, it's also like a chunky 3 dice of 5 that can also do some sandpapering.
I mean, have you ever just charged the Croaks in?
No, but that should be worse, right? It's PS
what, a
10
off 9?
Of 9.
Do about 3 points on average with Sun's importance.
I mean, it's not that bad, probably.
I mean, it might do a little bit, because if they're 21 versus 11, that's off 10 versus off 9.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they do just a touch more in melee than on shooting.
Yeah. I did get to try it, Jaga into Denny 2 Dark Industries. I did greed and misposition Jaga, so she died at like the top of 2, I think. But between the feat and continuous effects, I think I, with some good rolls, did like maybe half her army. Like there were like arms flying off the jacks and everything, some cortexes and arc notes and stuff. And that was even before I did like this shooting list. At that time I only had 2 speeders, I had 1 wrestler, and no sacred vault.
You're playing it right.
And they're also, so the void leeches are also came from that matchup. Against Dark Industries, both of you are going to have +2 inches of deployment, and your Crooks are going to be advancing deploying from that. So it means that if you don't have the void leeches, you actually have to back up 2 inches unless you want to get hellmouthed.
You definitely do not want to get hellmouthed.
No, but it's fine. Like the math works out. Like if you have a void leech on each unit, then you're good to go. Just max deploy and be happy.
So since we're kind of talking about the meta a little bit later in this episode, one thing I wanted to bring up is that Slaughterfleet is kind of the new hotness.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like coming after Dark Industries, because I mean that's what Crix does, is they have one broken theme and they move to the next broken theme and they move to the next broken theme.
Yeah.
It's like there's literally no pause. They just, okay, we're different.
Yep.
Jaga plays fantastic into Slaughterfleet.
She should, right?
Absolutely fantastically into it.
So what's a typical Slaughterfleet list like?
I had played into Witch Coven, and he had the Belchers and the Marauders and the Gerlach Slaughterborn and that, whatever those guys are called, and then a bunch of like scavengers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, they have the feat to deliver them, and then they can just kind of beat on things a lot. And the scavengers are little weapon masters. And I think, if I recall correctly, the Witch Coven has an arm fixer as well.
Yeah, Curse of Shadows probably.
There we go, that one. And so we played this matchup, and literally, I lost 8 models. It was 2 husks that I killed, and then it was 6 ambushers I feeded on. And that was it.
Cool. So how did it play out? Like, what was the key to the matchup?
The husks actually controlled his infantry movement. So he came in, he feeded. Obviously, there's not a whole lot you can do on that feed turn. So I ran my husks up and I shot them to death myself. And was it the Vault? I think got one, and then Totem Hunter could actually reach in from 2 inches and not get touched by the
pop him
explosion.
and say bye-bye.
Yeah, and I have long chops in the list as well.
Yeah.
So between those two, that was able to I centered those clouds around some terrain, so it kind of hemmed him in. I think I was able to actually like get a little greedy and kill like 1 or 2 guys off the blasts.
Yeah.
So he was hemmed back. The next turn, I sent in the ambushers, feeded, picked out all of his solos, and then I had guys left over. So then I started popping it on the jacks as well, just for fun. And then at that point, you just roll up the army. I mean, they're all defense 12 and pew 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 pew.
Yeah. I have seen some versions of the Slaughter Fleet which is basically like a Statixis Fest. Because they have gotten some new units and some new solos and support, I think.
Yep, and so that one I think is a little bit harder to play into, but I think the trick with that is, again, my version of the list has the husks in it. So you get the ambushers, you run them in, use the feet to pop the UAs out of the units. So that way, I don't think they lose Whipping Winds that turn. I think they lose it the following turns, though.
Yeah.
And then you pop the husks again to keep them back, keep them away, and that'll buy you the time you need to. And then without their buff, the Crooks can kind of pick on them pretty easily as well.
So what's your actual Jaga list?
Oh, why do you ask me these questions?
It's 2 husks, ambushers, a wrestler.
Crooks, double Crooks.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually have War Room open. So it's Jaga, Soul Slave, Wrestler, 2 Bone Swarms, a Vault, 2 husks, Long Chops, Totem Hunter, Bone Shrine, Crooks with a Void Leech, Ambushers, and a Spirit Cauldron.
So okay, so I guess we agree on one thing: ambushes for defeat targets. I know my
100%.
I know my reasoning for that. What's your reasoning? Instead of the obvious shamblers.
Armor 14. And then I have the flexibility to ambush them if I need to against, say, Magnus 2. The fact that it's armor 14, and we talked about this like last episode and a couple episodes, that extra piece of armor is a big deal.
Yep, I agree. I also have one more, which is speed. The shamblers, I think they're just probably too slow to be useful properly in especially this kind of matchup. So I ditched those and just want to focus on ambushes instead. And I think you also have the advantage of actually being able to, as you said, ambush them. In my case, not just in case of scenario pressure, but also to hide them. So I was playing against Vlad too, and I got gotcha'd because he has this wind blast thing, and the line of sight blocking thing in the middle was a cloud. So it's like, oh, sweet, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna protect my ambushes from the bombardiers. And it was like, remove cloud, remove ambushes. I was like, well, so that would have been a good time to ambush them, actually.
Yeah, I mean, and 9 times out of 10, I don't ambush them because I need them front and center to feed on.
Yeah.
But every odd scenario now and then you do. I've had them come in and take off, juniors, Eris, Ion and Holt, Idrian Chieftain. They'll make their points back.
Yeah, and because it's the feed targets need to be in Jaga's control area, the models does not have to be. They can reach in pretty far from the flank by just running and maybe do some work in the process. So
18 inches from the flank.
Yeah, it's not super good, and you can only choose one flank, but it's something. I did also consider Thralgs for a while, just because they help against Crick's Dark Industries, because they disrupt jacks. And you also have like fast, beefy feed targets if you really want to go for like a desperation and assassination. Which is also another reason why I like this list. It can be a lunge list if you really want to. It's like, okay, just press everything, focus everything on the caster. Even if they're camping behind a wall, just go for it and just hope for die spikes if you get caught in a bad matchup.
Yep. And then also, like, I have the husks in my lists, so I have feeded on the husks, which is POW 16.
Yeah.
Totem Hunter, I was trying to get him into Cassius for feet, and it didn't work out activation wise, but he's another reasonably mobile high pow guy.
Yeah. So did you have a bone shrine in your list?
I do. I found that I really like having it
Yeah.
because of the extra point of focus on the feet turn.
Yeah, that was my main reason for having it. I had to drop it because I don't have the points for it. And the reason that, like, because the way I reworked the list, I got basically a much better gunline for the trade-off of having one extra fury for the feet. But it's like when you cast Science Importance for 4 and then you have 3 boost, it's like, yeah, it's not fantastic, but I guess it'll have to do.
I mean, that's fair. Can't argue with that. Yeah, I mean, after my time with the turtles, I went in a different direction with the bone swarms.
Mm-hmm.
And no regrets on that one either, although I do miss the corrosion bombing quite a bit.
I mean, for me, I think I really need the speeders because and the double miss speakers because I want to be able to deal with Scar's Wraith Engine. I want to be able to just double bomb it and maybe feet and maybe feet on it like super early before she feeds.
And that's where if I have to give up either long chops or totem hunter in order to get the miss speaker back into my list.
Anyway, I'm also pretty impressed by the Sacred Vault. It was I think this has been the first time I actually played it since it got into Sid, and at least when playing into dudes, it did a whole lot of work.
I'm so proud of you.
I mean, I was grossed out when I actually put it into my list. It used to be 4 speeders, and then I would just pay for a missed speaker. But then I just realized somebody told me a tip. I don't know, remember who? Maybe it was in a chat or something. Gaston?
Really?
Maybe. Yeah,
really?
Maybe. That the points probably works out. And then I was like, yeah, okay, if I drop a speeder, I get the vault in, I put a void leech on the ambushers. I get a free miss speaker instead. I was like, this should be better fury-wise.
Yes. And you also get 3 shots.
Yeah, I know. Not 3 fully boosted shots, but you get almost 3 fully boosted shots.
Oh my god, you were so picky.
Yeah, but I mean, it's good. It's Rat 6 and Science Importance.
And you haven't yet appreciated that it can help you with the spell hate.
I mean, of course. I mean, against crooks, that should be super fine. And okay, so I actually lied. You can actually get 3 fully boosted shots off because of how it kills infantry. If you get to shoot into infantry.
Or you just have your infantry tie into it.
I mean, you still can only have 5 souls on it.
You only boost the damage anyway.
Yeah. That's the important role.
So high maintenance.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm looking forward to getting some more reps into the Jaga list. It's been really fun. The few times I've played it so far, I feel like it can probably lift a whole more than I think it can. Even when playing it into sort of matchups that should be iffy. But we'll see what happens.
I'm just so happy that after months of beating you up on Jaga, you're finally listening to me. It makes me look really forward to our next segment.
Yeah, it's a team format, and I want to get a better Crix matchup.
Hey, come on. You can't use the team excuse. Everyone, every time they're like, oh, look at these statistics, and you're like, it doesn't count, it's a team thing. Bullshit. People bring their best lists for the team events. I'll just have to beat you up over the meat thresher for the same amount of time.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess we can go into that. My second list, it's like Rask Super Friends. I just wanted to try all the new stuff from the Sid, because I haven't played him since we got the new Blindwater stuff. So I just put together like a mixed Rask heavy list with Wrestler Horror Spitter for the battle group, Free Soul Slave for the free upkeep, and out of activation bonus charge. I got Bear, I got Snake, I got Pig. I opted to not go with Wrong and Snapjaw, because I want to have more movement shenanigans. Snapjaw is not the slowest, he's still threat 13 against living with bonus charge, but they are the least tricky, I think. With Pig and Snake, obviously you have diversion tactics and just overtake with reach, and then you have Scary Barry, which I wanted to experiment with. So we'll see what happens. And then you just have Swamp Covers, a Witch Duck for the Ghostly. I have a Cock and Cub because Double Enliven and Ammunition in one list should be pretty broken. Then I have probably a missed speaker, but it could be Orin.
Yeah, and it is worth noting, since we haven't talked about Rask too much on this, how much of a bump he got from the CID.
Yeah.
With the Soul Slave, the Witch Dock, Quack, and all that.
Well,
The Swamp Horror.
yeah,
the Swamp
of
Horror
course,
is
the
huge.
Swamp Horror too, with chain weapon and pull. And like my favorite combo is obviously Veil of Mists and Ghostly, because now you can go through models without having to suffer free strikes, which is amazing. And you can also hide behind buildings and just shoot out from there, so with no issue. And that I can't like overstate how good it is.
Yeah, I've been loving doing that with Brian.
Yeah. And at the same time, you also have for extra safety because of you can utilize the theme benefit of +2 speed in combination with Enliven. So like if you happen to extend, you can be like, okay, I'm gonna back up behind this forest or whatever, or behind this Veil of Mist. I mean, you can even bait using that one.
Yeah, I mean, I keep putting Admonition on a Swamp Horror and having it kind of be my lead. So it can go in and it can pull things out of the way, and then if something does get too close, well, then it's got a little safety zone on it.
Yeah. So I only played the list once. It was super fun, especially since I came off a losing streak with BLoB. And now it's more like, okay, I want that thing to go away. It's very far away, but I don't care. I don't have to set it up. I just go like, bonus charge, rage, go, feet, fine. Everything is safe.
It's depressing how good Rask is.
Yeah, he's like, I need obviously more reps with him. It might be that he needs to get everything done during the feat, or then it sort of gets attritioned out. But I feel like the pressure he puts out is something I've been missing from BLoB.
Yeah, the distance is just, a lot of the casters can do a lot of different things. It's just how easy they can do it. And since all of his stuff is buffs rather than debuffs, it's just so much easier to apply them.
Yeah, and again, it's like also a launch list. Like if you feel like you're in a bad matchup, or if you're super tired or whatever, you can be like, okay, I'm just gonna focus everything on the caster. I don't care if he kills 3 beasts, I'm gonna have 3 more heavies, and I'll just try to figure it out.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. So did you have some Rask tech maybe?
Quite possibly. So getting to the Gaston threshness part of this, so that way in 3 months you can steal my ideas again.
Nice. Looking forward to it.
I've been looking a lot at kind of how the meta is changing and trying to anticipate and adapt to it. And so I've been noticing a lot of medium-based spam lists, at least coming into my area, where you've got Lucant or Aurora with all of the reduct deciprocators.
Yeah, those.
Eradicators? Yeah, with whatever those things are called. Magic 1 champions, or champions just in general with trolls. You have Armor Core now is becoming a thing in my area. I don't know if the model's just released, and that's why it feels like there's a big delay.
I think so. I think they're freshly released.
Okay, because I feel like that CID happened so long ago, and now I'm just seeing them for the first time. Obviously, Maelok. We got Primal Terrors, and we know Incinerators are coming out with Protectorate stuff, and then we have Tharn CID coming as well. So it also looks like there's a lot of medium bases coming on the horizon. So I wanted to kind of get ahead of the meta with my faction, with minions, see what tools I can put in my lists to anticipate it. But I want my tools to be not janky, which is very weird for me because I'm a very janky person. Shh, you didn't have to agree with that.
It's true.
So that's why I'm now putting on a pedestal the most egregious model ever, the Meat Thresher. And it pains me with how well it works. And it works very well.
Would you elaborate, please?
It's for this particular meta, with these particular models and these particular matchups. There's like 18 asterisks on this. It is incredibly dice efficient. Because you have the 3d6 to hit. If you can knock them down, which, you know, about half of them you can, you get 3d6 to damage. POW 16 is pretty beefy. You can just hit a wide swath of models with the threshing. It's cheap. It's probably actually one of the most durable things in minions at Armor 19 36 boxes. For 16 points, I don't think there's a War Beast that can even touch it in minions.
I guess like you could make the point for Brown and Lug at 16 points, if you want to go that way.
Yeah, possibly. If you're counting Brun with the armor.
Yeah.
The minus 1 dice armor buff.
Yeah.
And then obviously it has bulldoze as well, which lets you kind of break up some of the shield walls, depending on angles and things like that. You can wiggle your butt into spaces. So deciding that the meat thresher was the future of minions, future or futurists here. I started looking at different casters and what they can do for it. And you have Rask is obviously in this discussion because he has boundless charge, fury, elasticity in the feats.
The holy grail, the elasticity thresher.
If the squids weren't already going to be in the list, I would not take them for the thresher. But it just so happens that the squids are already in the Rask list, so it kind of works itself out.
Yeah.
And it happens about half the games you need it, and about half the games you don't.
I kind of want to add one more point for Rask, which is, of course, Veil of Mist.
Yes, I have actually used Veil of Mist to go through walls and buildings more than anything else. I do have a Ghostly in there as well for the thresher.
Yeah.
But having multiple options is always good.
Yeah, because you can actually, go through the front line or get some cookie stuff to actually attack from the back, depending on the angles. But yeah.
Yes. Caliban, because he can make it stealthy. He's got Carnivore to make it mat 8. Parasite and Elasticity. So you can quote-unquote get that pound 19 thresher still going. But the mat 8 I think is very useful against Tharn, Trolls, things that stack defense quite a bit. I thought there was one other one. No. Trolls and Tharn. So there's that advantage. Carver, his feat makes it a weapon master, which again we're looking for a big swath of just hitting a bunch of guys at once. Helga's feat.
Quagmire is pretty good, I guess. Also,
I'm hoping nothing's alive base to base with it when it's done. I still think
True.
I want that at Gremlin Swarms.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because I feel like Gremlin Swarms are like harder to attack as well.
Yeah.
So, it's not. I guess you can, if you're worried about Tharn or Trolls, you can also get it up to mat 8 with Carver. So that's a good point I had not considered. He could technically, I think, have it overtake an inch for fun. Then you have Helga has her feat to slam everything for a little extra yum. Defender's Ward, makes it def 12 armor 21, and Distraction also gets it up to that mat 8. That's beautiful. And then finally the classic Sturm, which we've been playing the Thresher with him the whole time because of Polarity Shield, but he also has TK, the Shield Guards, and then his feat to limit retaliation back to it. So again, I specified not going to be janky with this, so I went with Rask because he's literally the easiest to use. He doesn't have to be debuffing anything. He's got the distance buff. He's got the delivery mechanism of the feed. He's got the extra POW, so he is the easiest to use. It's also the way his lists function is very easy to mold the Thresher into them. Basically, you take a zoo, you pull out Wrong Eye and Snapjaw, and you insert a Awesome Wagon. So the list I had come up with is Rask, a Soul Slave, Wrestler, 2 Horrors, a Meat Thresher, Dalian Scarith, Roshan Brine, a Battle Boar, Witch Croc, Gobber Chef, and Eilish Garrity. So there's quite a few things in this list that are actually designed for this particular meta. The Horrors in particular are particularly useful when you go into Shield Wall models, such as the Man of War, such as LeConte, where you can get around Shield Wall. If you double buff them, they're POW 18s. I've played, I think, 3 games now into Armored Core, and like one Horror will literally eat an entire unit of Shock Troopers.
Yeah.
Like its job. The other thing that's really nice about them is with the pool, they can manipulate models around. That creates easier landing zones. It feels like a lot of these lists are anchored with a Gargantuan or a Colossal. Particularly Primo Terrors has a Blightbringer, and 2 of the 3 times I've played into Armored Core, they've had a Victor. And one of the things I really, really like about playing Rask into these is that you can double buff Brine and launch him forward, and he very reasonably comes within a couple points on average of killing a Colossal. Usually he needs like a little push, but like we're talking like 5 to 10 damage push that can come from the Meat Thresher. A Horror can reach over him and ping it. So
yeah, it's sad that you can't get any boosted damage of the gun, but you still get power 16 shots from the Meat Thresher, I think the Colossals.
13 plus 2? 15?
Well, yeah, of course. 15.
Yeah, because it's large or huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, but if you figure he rolls in at arm 21. I had played him into a Victor like literally 2 days ago. Victor is arm 20, so he's dice plus 1. You've got 5 swings. He's got his initial, and then the 4 buys at dice +1 is 8 damage there. So 8 times 5 is what, 40. He's got his 2 at straight dice. That's another 14. That's 54. Your charge attack is 57. And Victor's like what, 62 boxes, something like that. 60.
Like 62 is probably more accurate than 60.
Okay, I know the like.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure at all. I mean,
I think it's like 62.
I mean, you get a puppet strings in there as well. Puppet
Yes,
strings
I
help.
totally. I have Eilish for puppet strings. I did go ahead and drop out Orin. He became the Witch Doc Croc. He was in there originally, but I feel like with the feat, you're probably good to go. Magical defense is there.
Yeah, I mean, Orin is never bad, but
He's never bad, but it's just fitting everything in the list.
he's much better where you can actually lightning bolt your own stuff, and I feel that Rask doesn't have good models to use that. Like, you don't want to send up Brian just to get a bolt in the bacon.
Is that what we're calling it now? A
Yeah.
bolt in the bacon. Oh my, the tenders. I really like having puppet strings on the Meat Thresher or on Rask or on Brine, because the nice thing about it is you're sending those things in, like Rask, particularly with his gun. It's going to be very important that that one dice roll go smoothly to knock off the debuff. It's going to be very important when you're sending just Brine in to kill a Colossal that you don't roll Snake Eyes on that one time. And then the Meat Thresher just makes so many damn attacks in a given turn that you want to have that puppet strings there, because you're just rolling so many dice. Eventually, they're just statistically you're going to go, poop.
Yeah.
It happens. So he's been an absolute amazing godsend in the lists. I think he comes out in September, so that'll be perfect for everyone who didn't get one. Big fan.
So, did you actually get to try this, or is this just the Warmachine for now?
I have played about 8 games with it now.
Oh.
It has been thumbs up. Anytime that I've lost, I've gone back through the battle report, I've looked at it, and I've been like, that's me. That is 100% on me, not on the list. And that's okay, because I can fix me. I can't fix the list.
Yeah.
My first game was into Primal Terrors, and because I didn't have the Witch Doc Croc for Ghostly, I could not get Brine to the Blightbringer on turn 2. He would have taken like 8 free strikes or something ridiculous like that and just died.
Yeah.
So that's the swap I made to the list from there. And from there, it's been pretty smooth sailing.
I think it's also worth noting into Primal Terrors that the Blightbringer itself can only be armor 19, because all the other buffs go to warrior models.
Yes.
So it's squishy as fuck.
Unsupported, Brine kills it, because I think it's got like 54 health.
Yeah. I mean, easily. I think I did the math on Blob's Scarath, like at with Dark Shroud and just Rage, and I think it like safely kills it pretty much.
And without that little armor aura, I mean, that army loses a lot of juice right there.
And the caster also loses a lot of fury and transfer targets.
Yeah, the other thing that's kind of scary about Primal Terrors is GoLab, and Dolly and Scareth are actually a pretty good answer to GoLab, because it gets Swarm with Animag, I believe. So it's technically defense 15.
Yeah, true.
You can send the snake in, you can paralyze it, it's always 3 dice to hit. So you can primal it as well if you need to. So that was a pretty big deal. I think the list had every single tool needed in order to beat Primal Terrors. I wasn't playing it correctly.
Yeah.
The Meat Thresher did get to go in, and in one go killed, I want to say 8 Ogren, all by himself, underneath the Blightbringer buff. So that was very, very solid.
So do you feel that that's something your opponent could have prevented by positioning better?
So that's something I've been thinking about, and I haven't been telling my opponents. Typically, when you are playing a medium base army, they tend to go wide, like horizontal across the table.
Yeah.
If you start putting them vertical, then it gets a lot harder for the Meat Thresher to do its thing.
Yeah.
Because of the way the bulldoze and the angles work.
Yeah.
So that's something I would definitely, if you're playing into this, I would recommend people do is make little triangles or whatever you need to in order to create a blocking action.
Yeah, I guess just stacking them too deep would take a lot of the edge off, because you're not gonna bulldoze them from the side on a charge, I think. Maybe
you'd have to flank pretty wide.
Yeah, super wide, and then I guess you want to get to either way. So I think that's probably one way they can do it, so maybe get just like 4.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of the other reason why the Swamp Horrors are in the list, is to kind of break up that a little bit.
Oh, the answers.
You see? This list solves its own problems.
Me with the fancy positioning tech. Already solved. Negated.
So that's why I typically usually lead with one horror, is he'll go in and he'll bust up whatever needs to be busted up. And then with ammunition, they can threaten him a little bit, and you can back him up a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's not always perfect. I have really horrible luck with my horrors, missing attacks that they should be hitting, doing crappy damage. That is why I have primal in the list, and I am much more inclined to primal horror than any other beast in the list, because they are the quote-unquote disposable parts. That's the parts you want to trade. Otherwise, the other thing I've really noticed when you're looking at the positioning and how you strike your opponent out is it is very tempting, and I fall into this trap all the time, of just firing the meat thresher at them and let's see how this goes. It'll be glorious. Anytime I've gotten 2 turns out of the meat thresher, it has been ridiculous. It can like run the table on its own if you can get 2 turns out of it. So when you send it off on its own, and then they're able to kind of swarm it and kill it, isolated from your army, it goes out, it kills its 8 medium bases, and it's done. And that's not a bad trade, but if you want to get more return for your thresher, you want to kind of support it a little bit more.
So when you actually send it in, how much does it usually take to kill it, and how often has it survived just on its sankiness?
It usually, if they dedicated the resources, it will usually die. It's probably got about a 50% survival rate. One of my worst trades with it was I sent it into a rep player, and I think it killed like 4 of the reservist defenders, and that was a positioning mistake on my part. There was a Moros there that I didn't try very hard to get to. There was a building in the way and models, and I didn't work out the bulldozers to see if I could even do it. So it ended up taking Aeon Virthurfith Elam the solo.
I have no idea. Point the airball guy, is that the one?
The last word guy, whatever his name is. I suck at fantasy names. I should not play these games. 4 defenders went into it. Moros with concentrated power and 3 focus went into it, and the Archaeantric Force Generator killed it. Yeah,
I mean, but so that still has soaked 1 battle engine activation, a lot of little Arcanist activations, and some units.
Moros and a bunch of Weapon Masters.
I guess you usually deliver it on feet. I guess probably.
Sometimes it depends. I've been trying to hold back a little bit to see if I can't get better positioning. I had managed to hold it back into Armored Core against Sorcerer 3. So on that turn, it went in and it killed... The previous turn, it had shot down 2 Demo Core. Then the next turn, it charged in and killed another 2 Demo Core and 2 of the Bombardiers. And then it survived that turn, and then it killed another 4 Bombardiers. So it went through 11 medium base infantry.
Yeah.
And it survived the following turn too. He didn't get to kill it. Right. I will say the one thing you mentioned at the very beginning of the pass that sucks, that jams the meat thresher really good, is champions.
Yeah.
The paladin champions, not the troll champions, because they cannot be pushed.
Yeah.
It is very upsetting.
If only I had something like a spell that could make it go through models. And
or
another
if I
model.
had something that had chain weapon and ignores their retaliatory strike, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are answers in the list. It just is annoying to keep playing against them.
All the answers.
The other thing that's worth mentioning, since you're talking about Rask and assassination, is that if you can get the meat thresher guns to a reasonable striking shot at a caster, be it through knockdown, with a throw or paralysis off the snake or whatever, then you can't jam it and stop it from shooting. It's just like the Dawn Guard battle engine right now, where everyone's freaking out about its ability to shoot. It can just roll up and put 2 to 4 shots into a caster.
Yeah.
So it feeds into the assassination that way as well.
Yep. Good stuff.
So I think it's actually not jank for a change. It fits very well into existing lists, and it has been pulling its weight like crazy.
Yeah. Welcome to Matter of Pact Mark III, where we love the battle engines.
It took a while.
Yeah. It took some it took some getting used to, but we finally got there. We got here, Gaston. We got here.
I'm gonna play like Chariots of Fire right now.
Yeah.
But once I realized that not everything in our faction sucks, that made me start kind of looking mathematically and just doing some theory dojo on a couple of other seldom used models. And so I was poking around Gudrun the Wanderer and the Ogryn Bokor, two models you don't see very often. But I think that you can use them to solve very specific issues if you're coming across them in your meta. So the Ogryn Bokor, for example, he's a base PAL 15, he's 17 under client, and then if you throw Fury on him or Parasite on your opponent, then he's a PAL 20. Alternatively, you can take him with Midas for Weapon Master via Battle Lust, and I actually really like the Ogryn Bokors with Midas for slam reasons as well. But one of the big issues, the things that I hate, is Hellmouths. So I started looking at these guys as a solution, basically little Hellmouth hunters. And when your Hellmouth itself is base arm 18, it's got 8 boxes. The Rask-thresher on the charge is dice +2 plus 2d6 because you drop the 1d6. So it will kill it on a roll of 6, which is 72%. That's pretty darn good for free solo.
Yep.
The shield for follow-up, if you can actually get them close enough to use a shield, is only like 1 damage. A lot of times I've seen them take the Hellmouths with the Blightbringer and then shoot it for the little... the Blightbringer hilariously cannot damage it. But
like I guess they shoot a tentacle beside it or something?
No, they just shoot the actual critter.
Isn't it like power 15 or something?
Yeah, but it's 1 dice.
Yeah, but it's armor 18, right?
Or does it actually get the arm buff on the hit?
Oh, I guess it does probably get the arm buff on the hit. Okay, so it might do 1. Ugh.
It's kind of stupid. So at that point, it bumps it up to armor 20, or you need an 8 to actually kill it. So, because then you're straight dice. So that drops it down to 41%, but I'm not including Eilish with a reroll for that. But a free solo to kill a Hellmouth, which is one of the trickiest things in the game to kill, I think it's worth the consideration. The other thing that's actually really interesting is using Applied Knowledge from Linus and Edria, because at that point he's going in dice +1 on a Warjack. He's getting all 3 dice. Yeah. 11 damage is, at least in ARM, you can often get a Cortex that way. So again, it's a free solo completely crippling a heavy Warjack.
I mean, it's still like it's a pretty hefty support package to get it off.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something where I would do it if I was already doing it in the list. I wouldn't do it just for that. Kind of like the Meat Thresher. I wouldn't do the list just for the Meat Thresher. It's that the Meat Thresher fits everything that the list is already doing.
Yeah, like it's a consideration for this particular kind of meta.
Exactly. So, and then the other thing I was kind of thinking of is you have the Meat Thresher with its threshing. Gudrun has Berserk, and he's already a base PAL 15. So again, you can Weapon Master him with Midas, you can get him up to PAL 18 with Rask and Caliban. That gets a lot harder to get a lot of Berserk attacks off on medium base infantry just because of number of boxes and the fact that they are higher armor. But if you look at Warmongers, they're arm
16 plus Brightbringer 18, unyielding against melee 20.
It's 20, but they only have 5 boxes. So at dice off 2, Gudrun kills each one on a 7, which is about 58%, 60%.
Yeah.
And then if you take Brian and you just kill the Blightbringer like you should be, then you only need a 5 to kill each of these Warmongers, which is now 83%. And then they got to kill him back. I mean, is that not worth it? That's kind of the question.
Could be fun experimenting. I guess you could make the point for Maximus, like Simulation, especially under Carver, where he would get overtake and Weapon Master in defeat. Like, I mean, I guess you have to count on like the tough stopping the chain after probably the first hit, because that's how tough works when you do cool stuff. But
yeah, that is the one downside.
But I mean, you could try to live the dream and do like the full-on Pac-Man power 13, double weapon master.
It also gets a little bit interesting with Helga. You probably don't want to burn the feet to do this, but medium bases do tend to clump up.
Yeah.
So then he can charge in under her feet, slam them all, and then they're knocked down, and it's a weapon master.
Yeah, I think it's almost impossible to try to get around that. And I mean, if you build a list to try to do the thing and also get stuff that kills the Rise solo, Amok maybe?
I can't keep track of what they are anymore. I just point at them on the table.
I mean, Primal Terror has a Rise solo anyway, that I think has like an 8-inch control bobble or something. Which, like, if you're gonna knock stuff over, it's good to kill that one so they don't actually stand back up and vengeance into you.
Yep, absolutely. It's also great to knock down the Chosen.
Unless,
so one of the things,
unless Amok.
Unless Amok. So this is just kind of some dice machine that I was tossing out as I was looking at different things that can go into medium bases, and it could be possibly very low opportunity costs when you're building your list and when you're playing the game.
Do you have like any good estimate of where like a good power cutoff is? Because if you're talking about combat solos, I guess you could make the point for Thralg as well, with 2 power 12s and a 13 or 1-inch, threats 10. It's like it's like the same threat, but it doesn't have...
I think the problem with Thralg is that he doesn't hit hard enough and you can't buff him.
No?
Because like even every time we've talked about Maximus, it's been under Carver's feet turn. It's not just been a Maximus.
No.
Even though he is a weapon master.
Because you can't fear him, for example, because of the spell ward.
Yeah. So I think it's like you're looking at something that can be like POW 18.
Mm.
Well, because the thing with all these guys is you got a one-shot.
Yeah.
You don't get a second swing.
No. So what about Agatha? Ninja Pig.
Agatha and I have a very bad relationship.
Combo striking for PS17. Kapow!
We have a very bad relationship. Where every time I put her out and roll dice on her, she just botches the roll. And every time my opponent comes back to hit her with a roll, they like get boxcars.
I mean, she could live the dream, go in, combo strike a Chosen, hopefully kill it, sprint away, and then try to block with her defense 15 against Carnage.
Mat 11. Because remember, they have Golab, so he can just look at her and she's debuffed.
Yeah. Gorag. That's good.
Gorag, whatever it is called.
And Carnage, and maybe the veteran leader from the Boker. No, that guy.
Yeah. So I have used her with Helga as a poor man's totem hunter.
I mean, okay, so it took us 2 years to actually get to terms with the new battle engines. Maybe in 2 years we're gonna be main listing Agatha.
Hey, you never know. I have put her in lists this year, literally this year. So that's what I had for today.
Yeah, I think that's a cast probably.
Oh, tune in next time for when we talk about something else. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Bye bye.